You cannot even imagine that the conquerors of the known world were often broke, hungry, and terrified. Forget the glorious image from Hollywood movies. The life of a rank-and-file Roman soldier was anything but glamorous. In fact, many of them ended their long, brutal service with barely enough to survive. And the most shocking part, their biggest enemy wasn't always the one across the battlefield. Sometimes it was their own commanders and the very system they fought to protect. Stick around, because we're about to uncover the harsh, hidden realities of what it truly meant to be a soldier in the Roman army. Let's start with the money, or the lack of it. When a young man signed up for the legions, he was promised a steady salary, a signing bonus, and a plot of land upon retirement. Sounds like a good deal, right? The devil was in the details. The base pay for a legionary during the early empire was about 225 denarii a year. To put that in perspective, a simple tunic could cost 15 denarii. A loaf of bread was cheap, but everything else added up. And here's the kicker. That salary wasn't what they actually took home. The Roman army operated on a system of deductions. Think of it like a company store, but way worse. Soldiers had to pay for their own food, clothing, boots, and even their own burial fund. Yes, they had to pay for their own funeral arrangements in advance. Their armor and weapons were issued, but repairs and replacements that came out of their pockets. After all these mandatory deductions, a soldier might see less than a third of his supposed salary. Imagine fighting on the front lines, risking your life every day, only to have your paycheck disappear before you even get it. It was a constant struggle just to break even. This financial pressure led to some desperate measures. Many soldiers took on side hustles. They might work as builders during peacetime, guard private villas, or even lend money to their fellow legionaries at high interest rates, creating a cycle of debt within the barracks. The hope of striking it rich through plunder was a huge motivator. Sacking a city wasn't just about conquest. It was a chance to finally get paid. The promise of loot was a powerful tool used by generals to motivate their troops, but it was a gamble. Not every campaign ended with a wealthy city to plunder. Many ended in long, grueling sieges with little reward. Now, let's talk about the daily grind. Forget the idea of soldiers just marching and fighting. A huge portion of their time was spent on manual labor. They were the empire's construction crew. They built the famous Roman roads, aqueducts, forts, and walls like Hadrian's Wall in Britain. This was back-breaking work, done under the hot sun or in the freezing cold, often with the same simple tools we might use for gardening today. They dug ditches, quarried stone, and carried heavy loads for miles. A typical day might involve hours of weapons training followed by hours of construction work, all while living in cramped, often unsanitary barracks. And the discipline was absolutely brutal. The centurions, the backbone of the army, were famous for carrying a vine staff, and they weren't afraid to use it. Beatings were common for minor infractions. For more serious offenses, the punishments were terrifying. Decimation, for example, was a punishment for cowardice or mutiny, where 1 in every 10 soldiers in a unit was randomly selected and stoned or clubbed to death by his own comrades. It was a psychological tool designed to enforce absolute obedience through pure terror. This created an environment of constant fear, where a single mistake could lead to a painful and humiliating death. What about their physical and mental health? The life of a Roman soldier was a recipe for chronic pain and trauma. Marching for up to 20 miles a day, carrying over 60 pounds of gear, took a massive toll on their bodies. Arthritis, back problems, and foot ailments were rampant. Medical care was surprisingly advanced for its time. Dedicated field surgeons and hospitals, but they couldn't fix everything. Infections were a constant threat in an era before antibiotics. A minor wound could easily become fatal. And the psychological impact, we can only imagine. Today we have a name for it: PTSD. These men witnessed unspeakable violence. They saw their friends killed in brutal ways, and they participated in that violence themselves. They were far from home, often for decades, with little to no contact with their families. Letters took months to arrive, if they arrived at all. This profound sense of isolation, combined with the constant stress of combat and harsh discipline, must have been crushing. There were no therapists or mental health support. Soldiers were expected to be tough, to just deal with it. But the nightmares, the anxiety, The depression was all there, hidden beneath the polished armor. So, after 25 years of this brutal service, what happened? Did they get their promised retirement? Sometimes, if a soldier survived the battles, the diseases, and the brutal discipline, he was honorably discharged. He would receive a diploma, a certificate of his service, and his retirement bonus. This was usually a sum of money or a plot of land. But here's another cruel twist. The quality of that land varied wildly. Some veterans got fertile farmland near a town. Others were given rocky, useless plots in the middle of nowhere, impossible to cultivate. For many, the dream of a peaceful retirement as a landowner turned into another struggle for survival. And what about those who didn't make it the full 25 years? A disabling injury could mean being discharged early with little to no compensation. You served the empire with your body, and when your body was broken, the empire was often done with you. These men, unable to fight and unable to farm, often ended up as beggars in the very cities they helped build and protect. The story of the common Roman soldier is not one of constant glory, but one of incredible resilience in the face of immense hardship. They were underpaid, overworked, and subjected to a system that often treated them as expendable. They endured physical and psychological trauma that we can barely comprehend. Yet despite it all, they built and defended one of the most powerful empires in history. Their strength wasn't just in their skill with a sword, but in their ability to endure the unendurable. So the next time you see a statue of a Roman emperor or a depiction of a triumphant legion, remember the thousands of anonymous soldiers who made it all possible, the men who traded their youth, their health, and often their lives for a dream of a better future that for many never came. Their story is a powerful reminder that behind every great empire, there are countless hidden struggles. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this look into the real life of a Roman soldier interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what other hidden histories you'd like to explore. See you in the next one.